Have you ever sat across from a woman who did everything right? She was polite, she laughed at the right moments, she never raised her voice or spilled her drink, and yet, looking at her, you felt, nothing. Just a flat, gray static. It's confusing, isn't it? You know you should want this. You know this is what you're supposed to invite home to meet your parents, but your gut is screaming at you to run. Then there's the other kind. The one who walks into a room and the air changes. She might have a smudge of ink on her thumb or a scar she doesn't bother covering up. She isn't trying to be good. She's just there. And for some reason, you can't look away. It's not about beauty. I've seen stunning women who feel like cardboard cutouts. This is about something else, something heavy. I've spent years watching this pattern play out. In bars with sticky floors, in high-end restaurants where the napkins are thicker than my shirt. It's always the same. A man will ignore the perfect option for the one who looks like she's hiding a secret. Or maybe not hiding it. Maybe she's just holding it. It makes you wonder what she knows that you don't. We're told to look for light, kindness, softness, compliance. But there is a part of the male psyche that is bored to death by compliance. We crave the thing that feels like it might bite back. I'm not talking about toxicity or drama, though God knows we mistake one for the other often enough. I'm talking about density. A woman who has embraced the parts of herself that polite society says she should cut off. I remember a dinner party years ago. Everyone was behaving, passing the salt, talking about real estate, and there was this woman at the end of the table. She wasn't saying much. She was just tearing a piece of bread apart with her hands, watching the crumbs fall. She looked bored, but not in a rude way, just unoccupied by the performance everyone else was putting on. I caught her eye. She didn't smile. She just looked at me, and in that look there was a challenge. It was terrifying, and I was hooked. I didn't know her name, I didn't know her history, but I knew she had a darkness she wasn't afraid of. Most of us spend our lives running from our own shadows. When we meet someone who wears theirs like a coat, it short-circuits the system. Why does that happen? Why do we chase the thing that unsettles us? It's not masochism. Well, maybe a little bit, but I think it's actually a search for wholeness. We project our own repressed nature onto them. But that's getting too technical. Let's keep it on the ground. Think about the women you've actually obsessed over. Not the ones you liked, but the ones who haunted you. They all share one trait. It's not confidence exactly. Confidence is often just a louder mask. It's integration. But what does that actually look like in the real world? And why does it make a man feel like he's starving? I want to walk you through what happens when a woman stops pretending she's harmless. Because once you see it, you realize we've been lying to ourselves about what attraction really is. We call them good girls. It's meant to be a compliment, I guess. But have you ever watched a woman who is trying desperately to be good? It's painful. It's like watching a dog walking on its hind legs. You can admire the effort, but you know it's unnatural. I dated a woman like that once. She folded her laundry into perfect squares. She never interrupted me. She agreed with everything I said. And after 3 months, I felt like I was suffocating. She was exhausting herself, keeping the lid on the jar. I remember waking up once in the middle of the night and finding her sitting at the kitchen table, staring at a dead fern in the corner. Just staring. No expression. I asked her what was wrong, and she put that bright, reflexive smile back on before her head even turned. "Nothing," she said. "Just thirsty." I didn't believe her. I don't think she believed herself. Men aren't as dumb as the sitcoms make us out to be. We are attuned to danger, and a person who is hiding half of who they are feels dangerous. Not in the exciting way, but in the when will this blow up way. We sense the energy it takes to suppress anger, envy, greed. When a woman denies she has those things, she becomes a two-dimensional drawing. You can't hold a drawing. You can't fall in love with a drawing. Then you meet someone who admits she's jealous or selfish, or that she sometimes hates her friends. It sounds counterintuitive. Why would I want that? Because it's real. It's the difference between biting into a wax apple and a real one that might have a bruise on it. The bruise proves it grew on a tree. I met a woman at a funeral once who whispered that she was only there for the free wine. It was shocking. It was also the most honest thing anyone had said all day. I laughed. I couldn't help it. In that moment, the tension of the room, the stiff suits, the whispered condolences, the heavy smell of lilies, it all broke. She wasn't trying to be the grieving saint. She was just a human being who was tired and wanted a drink. That permission to be flawed, it's a drug. When a woman stops performing goodness, she gives the man permission to stop performing strength. Maybe I'm romanticizing it. Maybe she was just rude. But I don't think so. There's a texture to people who have shook hands with their own demons. They don't vibrate with anxiety. They sit heavy in the chair. They don't look to you for validation because they've already seen the worst parts of themselves and survived it. What can you possibly tell them that they don't already know? This is where the obsession starts. It's not about the bad behavior. It's about the lack of fear. When a woman isn't afraid of her own darkness, she becomes a mirror. And that terrifies us, but we can't look away. We want to know how she does it, how she walks around with all that weight and doesn't buckle. It triggers a primal chase instinct. But it's not about catching her, it's about figuring out what she is. I used to think I wanted peace. I'd come home from a double shift, my back aching, just wanting silence. But silence isn't always peace. Sometimes silence is just a held breath. I learned that the hard way. There's a specific kind of quiet that happens when two people are pretending everything's fine. It's loud. It rings in your ears like tinnitus. It makes the hair on your arms stand up. A woman who embraces her sharper edges doesn't do that. If she's angry, the room feels hot. If she's sad, it rains. There's no guessing game. I remember dating a woman who would slam the cabinet doors when she was mad. Just once, bam. Then she'd turn around, push a stray hair behind her ear, and ask if I wanted tea. It was jarring, but God, it was relaxing. I didn't have to read her mind. We treat women like they're fragile things that will break if we drop them. But the shadow proves otherwise. It proves resilience. When a woman shows you her greed or her rage, she's showing you her capacity for life. It's like seeing the roots of an old oak tree breaking through the concrete sidewalk. It's destructive, sure, but it's strong. We respect strength. We respond to it. And there's a safety in it for us, too. I know that sounds wrong. How can volatility be safe? Because you know where the walls are. With the nice girl, the floor might drop out at any moment. With the woman who knows her dark side, the traps are marked. She's not hiding a knife behind her back. She's sharpening it on the kitchen table while you watch. I often wonder if we're just bored. Modern life is so sanitized. We have air conditioning and insurance policies and memory foam mattresses. Maybe we crave the shadow because it reminds us we're animals. I looked at my own reflection in a shop window the other day, suit, tie, expensive haircut, and felt a sudden distinct urge to throw a brick through the glass, just to see what would happen. She does what we are afraid to do. She breaks the glass. Not literally, usually, but socially, emotionally. She says the thing that cuts the tension. She asks for what she wants without apologizing. It's electric. It wakes you up. You stop looking at your phone. You stop thinking about tomorrow's meeting. You are forced into the present moment. But it's not easy. I don't want to paint a picture of endless excitement. It's hard work being around someone who doesn't edit themselves. It forces you to look at your own edits, your own lies, and that's where the friction starts. Because if she's not pretending, you can't pretend either. The mask starts to itch. You feel exposed. You start to realize how much of your own behavior is a performance, a reaction to her expected softness. But if she isn't just soft, if she's hard and cold and complex, then who are you supposed to be? That's the question that keeps men up at night. It's the gap in the circuit, and we will keep coming back until we close it. I was sitting in a booth with a woman like this, watching condensation run down the side of her glass. I told her a story about a promotion I didn't get. I gave her the rehearsed version, the one where I was the victim of office politics. She didn't nod sympathetically. She just looked at me, tilting her head slightly like she was reading fine print. "You didn't want the job anyway," she said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact. My first instinct was to defend myself, to pull up the stats, the late nights, the emails sent at 2 a.m. But then I looked at my hands resting on the cheap laminate table. She was right. I hated that place. I hated the fluorescent lights and the smell of recycled air. But I'd never admitted it, not even to myself. Her refusal to play along with my polite fiction shattered the lie instantly. It was humiliating, and it was the biggest relief of my life. This is the secret weapon of the shadow. It acts like a metal detector. You can't smuggle contraband past it. When a woman is comfortable with her own failures, she has a radar for yours. She isn't judging you, she's just observing. That distinction changes everything. Judgment makes you hide. Observation makes you confess. And men are desperate to confess. We carry so much dead weight and we usually die with it strapped to our backs. Sometimes I wonder if we can actually handle that level of transparency for long. We say we want truth, but we live on white lies. You look great. I'm fine. It doesn't matter. Without the grease of those little lies, the gears grind. There were days with her where the silence was so heavy I thought my chest would crack. I questioned if I was strong enough to be with someone who didn't need me to be a hero. That's when the obsession deepens. You realize she doesn't need your protection. She needs your presence. And presence is much harder to give. It requires you to actually be there, not just play the role of the boyfriend or the husband. I remember watching her sleep one morning, her hair messy across the pillow, mouth slightly open. Not a princess, a creature, and I felt a pull in my gut that terrified me. I wasn't just attracted to her, I was implicated by her. Let's talk about projection. I said I wouldn't use psychology terms, but I lied. Sometimes you need the word to find the thing. We project our golden shadow onto women. We see the beauty and grace we can't access in our own rough, utilitarian lives. But we also project the monster, the crazy ex, the nag. We dump all our unwanted emotional garbage onto them and then blame them for carrying it. But the woman who knows her shadow, she hands it back. You try to hand her your guilt, she drops it on the floor. You try to make her responsible for your boredom, she walks out the door. It's infuriating. I remember an argument over something stupid. Dishes, probably. I was winding up, getting ready to launch into a lecture about responsibility. I wanted to feel righteous. I needed to feel righteous. She cut me off. I'm not doing them because I don't want to, she said. I'm lazy today. That was it. No excuses about being tired or busy. Just, I'm lazy. The wind went out of my sails immediately. How do you fight with that? I stood there in the kitchen, holding a dirty plate, feeling like an idiot. My righteousness had nowhere to land. She had owned her flaw before I could weaponize it. This refusal to be the villain in your story forces you to look at your own script. If she isn't the problem, then who is? It's a mirror that doesn't fog up. You start to see your own need for control, your own pettiness. It's ugly, but it's the only way to grow up. Most men spend their lives looking for a mother or a cheerleader. This woman forces you to find a partner. I won't lie to you. There were moments I wanted to leave. Moments I craved the simplicity of someone who would just apologize to keep the peace. It's easier to be with someone who fears losing you more than they fear losing themselves. But easy is boring. And once you've tasted the real thing, the artificial sweetener leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You start to crave the resistance. The resistance proves she's real. It proves she has boundaries that aren't made of chalk. I tried to push her once, emotionally. Tried to make her jealous. It was a cheap trick, born of insecurity. She saw right through it. She didn't get mad. She just looked disappointed. Not in herself. In me. That look cut deeper than any screaming match ever could. It demanded I be better without saying a word. There's a strange paradox here. The more she owns her darkness, the brighter she seems to shine. It's not the holy, sterile light of a saint. It's the warm, flickering light of a fire. A fire can burn you, yes, but it also keeps the wolves away. You realize that her capacity for negative emotions is directly tied to her capacity for passion. You can't numb the grief without numbing the joy. You can't cut off the rage without cutting off the lust. I remember a night out with friends. We were at a dive bar, the kind where the music is too loud and the beer is watered down. Someone made a joke, a cruel one, at someone else's expense. Everyone laughed nervously, that polite, "Let's not make a scene," laughter. Except her. She didn't laugh. She didn't scold. She just stared at the guy until he stopped smiling. The silence stretched for 10 seconds. It felt like an hour. It was awkward. It was uncomfortable. but in that moment she was the only person in the room with any gravity. Later, in the taxi, she grabbed my hand. Her grip was tight. She was alive in a way the rest of us weren't. We were sleepwalking through social niceties. She was awake. And being near someone who is awake is addictive. You hope some of it rubs off on you. We often mistake high maintenance for high value. A woman who demands fancy dinners or constant attention is just loud. A woman who demands integrity is terrifying, because you can buy a dinner. You can't buy integrity, you have to build it. And most of us are lazy builders. We want the prefab house. She is asking us to lay the bricks. I think about the times I failed her. Not by forgetting an anniversary, but by shrinking, by not speaking up when I should have, by choosing the easy path. She never yelled. She would just withdraw, not in a passive-aggressive way, but in a self-preservation way. Like she was conserving energy. "Call me when you're back," her eyes would say. Not back from work. Back from the place where I was hiding. It made me want to return, to fight my way back to her level. It's a constant calibration. You can't coast, and for a man who has spent his life coasting on charm or credentials, that is a shock to the system. But it's the good kind of shock, the kind that restarts a stopped heart. You feel the blood moving again. You remember what you're made of. Eventually, you stop looking for the exit. You realize the tension isn't a bug, it's a feature, it's the engine. Without the polarity, without the friction of two whole people rubbing against each other, there is no spark. Just two damp matches tapping together in the dark. I stopped trying to fix her. I stopped trying to smooth her out. I learned to appreciate the jagged edges because that's where I could get a grip. I remember watching her handle a crisis once, a real one. Her sister had been in an accident, panic everywhere. People crying, shouting, running around like headless chickens. She went still. Her face went cold. She moved with a scary precision, making calls, packing bags, giving orders. It wasn't nice. It was efficient. It was ruthless. And it was exactly what was needed. That ruthlessness is part of the shadow. It's the part of us that can make the hard call. If she had been fully integrated into the good girl role, she might have collapsed. She might have needed comforting. Instead, she became a pillar. I stood back and watched, feeling useless and completely in awe. I saw the warrior in her. We forget women can be warriors because we're too busy trying to make them princesses. But the warrior needs a partner, not a savior. That's the shift. You stop wanting to save her, you start wanting to stand next to her. The fantasy of the damsel in distress dies, and something far more interesting takes its place. A comrade. Someone who can cover your blind spots because she knows exactly what lies in the dark. It changes how you see other women, too. The performance becomes visible everywhere. You see the forced smiles at the grocery store, the carefully curated Instagram captions, the desperate need to be liked, and you feel a kind of sadness for them. They're exhausted. They're carrying a heavy shield, thinking it's their skin. Once you've seen someone put the shield down, you can't unsee the weight of it on everyone else. This isn't about finding a bad girl. That's just the flip side of the same coin. Rebellion is just as performative as compliance. This is about finding a whole woman, someone who has occupied all the rooms in her own house, even the basement, especially the basement. Because if she knows what's in her basement, she won't be afraid of yours. And brother, you have a basement. We all do. I sat on a park bench recently watching a young couple. He was checking his phone. She was picking lint off his sweater. They looked perfect. They looked bored. I wanted to shake them. I wanted to tell him, look at her. Really look at her. Ask her what she's afraid of. Ask her what she hates. But I didn't. We all have to walk our own path to the edge of the cliff. The obsession doesn't end, by the way. It just changes shape. It turns into a deep, abiding respect. A knowing that you are in the presence of something wild that has chosen to stay. Not because it has to, but because it wants to. That choice is everything. A caged bird stays because of the bars. A hawk stays because of the bond. I still get unsettled sometimes. She'll say something sharp or go quiet in a way that makes me question everything. But I've learned to lean into that discomfort. It's a signal. It means we're still in territory that hasn't been mapped. It means we're still exploring. And isn't that what we wanted all along? Not the safety of the harbor, but the open sea? If you find a woman like this, one who casts a long shadow, don't run. Don't try to shine a light on her to make the shadow go away. Stand in it with her. Let your eyes adjust to the dark. You might find that the things you are most afraid of are the very things that will set you free. You might find that the monster under the bed was just a part of yourself you locked away a long time ago. She has the key. She probably won't give it to you. She'll just toss it on the table and dare you to pick it up. And in that moment, looking at that small metal object, you have a choice. You can go back to the static, to the polite dinners and the empty conversations, or you can pick up the key. I picked it up. My hands were shaking. I'm still not sure what I unlocked, but I know I'm not bored, and I know I'm not asleep. In a world that is desperate to numb us, to sedate us with comfort and consensus, waking up is the most dangerous thing you can do, and the most necessary. So watch the shadows. That's where the real story is happening.